Inside the demon realm, where a giant castle sits, the warrior Vermouth and his 4 comrades venture into the castle to subdue the demon kings. They had previously slain 3 of the 5 demon kings, but only 2 remained. A horde of demons swarm them, and Vermouth, with just 1 slash of his sword, clears the way instantly. This is the power of the great Vermouth. A mage walks behind him and says that against this many, she can most definitely use her powers. She does so, and countless elements pop out of nowhere, clearing the way. This is Senya, the Wise. A priestess attempts to bless everyone with her holy magic, and that's when a demon attacks her. But it seems that she's not that defenseless. Annis, the Faithful. The burliest of the group attacks with a giant axe, and with just 1 swing, he butchers most demons in his path, and a rain of blood and body parts wash over him. Moron, the Brave. The last person in the group, bearing quite a lot of scars, demands Vermouth stop going ahead and makes his way through the demons. This is Hamel, the Foolish. He was always jealous of Vermouth, and he considered him his rival. But nobody really recognized that. Having cleared all of the fodder, the party looks around for potential clues. That's when Hamel spots that Vermouth is in danger, and at the last second, jumps in front of him, taking the attack fully. The one who attacked seems to be a powerful demon, and Hamel falls down, as this attack has proved fatal. The demon attacks Vermouth in the same way, but now prepared, he dodges, and with 1 swift motion, cuts him in half. The party rushes to Hamel's side, and Vermouth looks down, noting that he didn't need to die like that. Hamel says that this death is honorable, and until this very moment, which would become his last, he regretted his past as he wasn't honest with his friends. Hamel reaches his hand forward and demands Vermouth defeat the Demon King. He grabs his hand and swears in his warrior's name that all of the Demon Kings shall be massacred. Hamel smiles with a certain regret and makes his peace with everyone. He asks Anise to pray for him. He says to Moron that he's the bravest warrior there is, and when he turns to Senya, he notes that he always liked her. That's when we find out this was just a story a boy with gray hair and yellow eyes read, who says that he never said he liked Senya. This is just pure fiction. Every time he reads this nonsensical book, it gets him extremely angry. Which person wrote this like a children's book? If only the author weren't anonymous, he would be able to show him a thing or two. He picks the book back up and wonders why everyone has such great titles, like the Wise or the Great, yet he was the Foolish. Was this perhaps written by some guy he pummeled 300 years ago? The same goes for his companions as well. Why didn't they do anything to this book? But it's fair, considering that they would never think the once-dead Hamel would reincarnate like this with all his memories intact. He, Hamel, died in the middle of subjugating the Demon Kings 300 years ago and was reincarnated as a descendant of Vermouth. Now, he goes by Eugene Lionheart, and he's 13 years old. While he was still alive, Vermouth had many concubines aside from his first wife. Eugene finds this strange, as he wasn't the type to chase women needlessly. Did he perhaps change his mind? But it wouldn't be so bad, as everyone has needs, so he gets it. The only families considered direct descendants are the children of the first wife. Even with the same surname, which is Lionheart, Eugene's family is considered an indirect branch. These types of families are forbidden from training their mana and from using real swords before the blood sacrifice ritual. For a 13-year-old, he's quite buff, and he thinks that today is the last time he uses a wooden sword. He trains with his sword, and his movements are extremely fast. Not long after beginning to train, he snaps the dummy into 2. His father looks at this with a scared expression and notes that this is not the first time he has broken one of these. Eugene turns to him, and his father notices how muscular he is. Quite scary for a 13-year-old. Eugene may be his son, but sometimes he's scared of him, as he doesn't act or speak like a child. There is no innocence left in those eyes of his, and even though he lost his mother at a very young age, he has not once missed her. Eugene says that the blacksmith in this town is utter trash, and selling low-quality garbage like this should be considered a crime and punished accordingly. His father coughs and says that he will give him a warning, but on the note of stuff to do, the blood ritual is tomorrow. Eugene thinks that this blood ritual of theirs is a dumb lion heart tradition held once every 10 years. Every child, between 10 and 15, whether from the direct branch or otherwise, gathers at the main family residence for the ritual. There, they compete in a sort of trial to find out who is really worthy of the Lionheart surname. But the main branches have an advantage, as they are allowed to train with real weapons and mana from a young age. So they are basically making sure the main family does better and that the branch families stay at their level. The father looks at the dummy and thinks that this son of his has such talent that he cannot imagine him being his son, and if only he were born into the main family. But no, if only he weren't this talented. Just like him, he wouldn't have to see and feel the difference between reality and his talents. Eugene asks what happened for him to have such a sad expression, but his father dismisses it as nothing. Eugene sighs and thinks that he's probably beating himself up for not being a good father. The father suddenly grabs him by the shoulders and demands he never compete with the children from the main family, as however talented he really is, he won't match the power of those kids, who have learned with swords and mana for a long time. Eugene smiles and says that he won't, but this is a lie, as this is just an easy win, considering he's basically fighting some 10-year-olds. He spots another dummy, and while walking to it, thinks that in this blood ritual, there will be 3 from the main family and 6 from the branch family. One of the 3 children from the main family is the son of the first wife, and the other 2 are twins from a concubine. So aside from the 2 high-authority branch families, the rest can be considered losers. Eugene raises his sword in the air and destroys yet another dummy in a single blow. Now he really wants to see how good the descendants of Vermouth really are. Tomorrow arrives, and while Eugene takes the carriage to the ritual, he thinks that when he was a Hamel in his past life, he thought of himself as a genius. Things were easy to learn for him, even as a child, and his improvement was fast compared to others. But this didn't stop Vermouth from commending his technique, noting that if he tried harder, he would be much, much stronger. He says that he's doing his utmost, and not everyone is a genius like he is. The only real problem he had was that he wasn't a genius, but someone close to him was. Skilled with swords and magic, he bore the nicknames the God of War and the Master of All. Vermouth is great. He was formerly just a mere duke in his homeland, the Kiel Empire, but retired from his position and was praised as a warrior until the end. And the other companions of his, Senya the Wise, who took the position of Magic Tower Master, is the youngest master of all time in the Mage Kingdom of Aroth. Anise the Faithful, who was extremely rotten inside, is now called a saintess in the Holy Empire of Eurus. And there's even scripture about her teachings. Moron the Brave surprisingly managed to make his own kingdom, which he sadly named after himself. So naturally, one is forced to think they had pretty good lives until they died. So why is the Demon King still breathing? Back then, Vermouth definitely swore that he would destroy all of the Demon Kings, the shameless bastards. He originally died at the Demon King of Incarceration's castle, and Vermouth seems to have made a promise to that Demon King after his death. Because of that certain promise, the war with the Demon Kings came to an end, and the world was at peace, which persists to this day, 300 years later. A man who's also inside the carriage with him, Lord Gordon, notes that he must be quite nervous, but if he is, he will struggle when he actually meets the main family. Eugene thanks him for the advice, and Gordon says that from here on, it's all Lionheart property. But he doesn't need to prepare to get off, as the main residence is still quite far away. Eugene wonders why he's so smug, considering that this is not even his property. He says that it must be inconvenient if it's this large, and Gordon notes that there are several warp gates scattered about, so it's actually pretty okay. Eugene wants to ask why he wasn't allowed to use one of those, but he can already predict the answer and would rather just shut up and smile. After a while, they arrive at the main family residence, which is quite big with shiny gold all around. But Eugene is prepared. They walk towards the main building, and Eugene isn't even surprised that he didn't get a welcome ceremony. Vermouth's Lionheart. The only people allowed to have the lion crest on their left chest are those from the direct bloodline. He asks Gordon if any of his relatives have arrived, and he notes that he's the first, so they should move to the guest house. A maid by the name of Nina greets him and says that she will be attending to his every need during his stay. If there was ever anything he wanted, all he needed to do was ring this bell. Eugene is thankful they at least gave him a personal maid, and he asks about her age. She says that she's 16, and that she's only just finished her training period. Eugene smirks and thinks that whoever assigned this inexperienced maid to him must be trying to start a problem if he were to lecture the inexperienced maid for a mistake. But it doesn't matter who thought of the idea, as they are boldly trying to harass him. He asks when the others will arrive, and she says that they should be here within the next 4 days. at the latest.